Again, my name is Scott Fleming. I'm the supervisor for the three scales that are up here in Northwest Indiana, I-65 southbound, I-94 east and westbound. A couple of things that I wanted to tell you from last time. We now have the dynamic brake testers installed permanently at all three of these scale facilities. So positive on that is a friction type testing that doesn't have anything to do with brake adjustment or the condition of the brake. So it is not something that is simplifying or reducing a level 1 inspection. It actually is lengthening it. So again, I think there's a video online also that I did, but you're basically driving up onto this dynamic brake tester and testing every single axle, and they test them one at a time. So again, it is percent of friction that is in the brake system of the brakes that you have. After that's done, we're going ahead and going to continue the inspection, the level 1 inspection, which I'm going to do one here real quick so you folks can see again what we're doing other than that. The other thing that I wanted to tell you is that in June of this year, at the I-65 southbound scale and the I-94 westbound scale, the state of Indiana is going to put in, they have a specific name for it, but for the lack of a better term, it's a tire anomaly system. Basically, it's a Mettler-Toledo system. When you drive over it in the roadway or in the lane, approach ramp at speed, it is basically able to, from the amount of pressure that you're putting on that device, tell you whether you have a tire that has low pressure on it. And they're using it in southern Indiana and at Fort Wayne right now, and they're accurate to almost 80%. Now, with that being said, I want to tell you that basically what that's telling us is that we have a tire that may have low pressure. But what that's doing is, when it's in operation, it's telling the operator that that truck can be pulled around for an inspection. And it's using the phrase that I had talked about before, which is, it lets my person get their foot in the door. If we get our foot in the door, we're looking at, we're doing that inspection. We're doing a level 2, or we're doing a level 1 inspection. And we're finding that tire, and it avails the truck or the driver to other types, to find other things. Cargo securement. The airlines between the tractor and trailer. Like I told you last time, I've got officers at the 65 scale that make a living out of standing out there and just looking at that. Last year, one of my officers had over 1,000 inspections, and out of that 1,000, he had almost 990 that were out of service. And it's just that he's specifically looking for a certain thing. But what he's doing is, it gets his foot in the door to do an inspection. And he's that successful at finding these things, and a lot of it had to do with those airlines. These are things Kevin spoke about, Kevin? Yep. That you do these things on that driver vehicle inspection report. If you're doing it in the morning and in the afternoon, or in the morning or the afternoon, whatever you're doing, that inspection becomes key, because the hoses that we see, this did not happen on the last trip. This happens over a period of time. My officers see that section of hose that has a big bunch of tape on it. I guarantee you he's going to remove that tape. Whether there's something there or not, he's going to remove that tape. So if you find something on here, it's imperative that you have it addressed. A company like this, I know, will fix these things so you don't become that target. That's the easiest thing that I can tell you. Don't become that target. I've said it before. We're like fishermen. We find a good fishing hole, and I'm going to fish it out. Basically what it is. But, yeah, two big things. The brake testers at all the scales up here now. Next June, or this coming June, tire anomaly. And then the year after that, at eastbound, they'll have the tire anomaly. So all these scales up here will have these key and important devices. We're bringing on more officers. I've got 2 new officers coming up. That'll bring me to 10. and then they're hiring after that. So what that's going to do is it's going to expand that 12-hour-a-day open time that we have, generally between 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., plus or minus a little earlier, to an additional amount of time. That opens us up longer. So again, it's just the way of the industry. Not much else I can say about that. Yeah, today was a busy day. A lot of slide-offs. He talks about not doing things. I'm over in the right-hand lane. Maybe it's because I'm 66 years old. I'm not for sure. But I'm traveling 40, maybe 42 mile an hour. Cars going past me. Yeah, my thought is, I'll see you down the road. Hopefully not on your top, but I may see you down the road. But I still see trucks going by me, commercial motor vehicles in the third lane, 65, 68 miles an hour in this weather. And it's my thought is, the initial thought, the officer thought is, go get him. But the safe officer's thought is, I'm going to go get him in this weather with the shoulders like they are? No, it's not worth it. But again, don't be that driver. Don't be that driver. So, okay, level 1 inspection. All right. Basically, at this point in time, this is going to be the same thing as if we pull the truck into the barn at the scale. But again, I remind you that we're doing it as the dynamic brake tester first. You get your steer axle up on there. The officer's going to stand outside the door. Your wheels are in a set of rollers. I'm going to have you take your foot off the brake, keep your hands on the steering wheel, and the rollers will begin to move that wheel. That officer is going to tell you, okay, apply your brakes slowly. Brake, 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 and then stomp it to the floor. And that's how that computer system is measuring that dynamic brake force, and we're going to do that for every single axle. So that's going to take a little bit of time, but we'll get through it. So after that, the vehicle comes off the machine, and you're in here like you would be right now, like this truck is right now. A lot of the things I'll just explain to you, but one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to check all the lights. I'm going to turn on all the lights on this vehicle. The regulations state if it's a light that's put on there by the manufacturer, it has to work. And you have to think, I have to tell you as to the position of a law enforcement officer, every light on here, and every light means the license plate lights, the ID lights, whatever the case may be, they have to work. If I'm going around a truck and I see a license plate light on the trailer that's out, and I complete my inspection and that's the only thing that I see, at this point in my career, I'm probably going to tell you, you know what, I could put this on there, but I'm not going to do that. I want you to get it fixed. And I've had more success with that than I've ever had with writing, taking that inspection report and putting that violation on there and denying that vehicle a clean inspection. But that's my position. It's my option to do that. But stand in front of the vehicle. Headlights, high beam, low beams. Left turn, right turn. Four-way flashers. I'm looking at all the lights on there. On this truck, well, on both of these trucks, they have the warning lights, the warning flashers. I'm not going to do anything with that. As far as I'm concerned, they were put on there aftermarket. Those lights you have to utilize those lights when you're under load, an oversized load. Now, if you're under an oversized load and you come through the scale and one of those lights are not working, it becomes an issue now. So again, it goes back to the fact, if you know you've got a light out and you're going to take off because you're not on one of these oversized loads, write it down, get it fixed, okay? But again, not going to worry about those lights because this truck right now is empty. So we've done that part of the lights. I'm going to have him operate the windshield wipers and washers. If the washer doesn't work, it's a violation. Honk the horn, air horn, city horn, have to work. Fire extinguisher and emergency reflectors. If you have the box that has 3 reflectors in it, and I open the box and there's one missing, it's a violation. You got to have 3. And you can't pour them out, you can't pour them out into a bag or something like that. They got to be in the box, it's got to be there. Fire extinguisher. New fire extinguisher, had guys say, hey, I've got a brand new fire extinguisher, here it is, and hand me the box. It's a violation. It has to be secured in the mounting bracket. Just stuff like that. It may seem aggravating, but that's the way they want that. So again, that stuff basically in the front. I'm going to go around the truck on the left side. I'm going to look at the lights on the back of the tractor. Turn signals, brake lights, backup lights, all needs to work. If this came in as a bobtail and you had a turn signal on the back of the tractor that didn't work, you would be out of service. That means it has to be fixed before it can leave there. Only because those are the rearmost lights on the vehicle. Put the trailer on there, it's going to be a violation if that light doesn't work, but it's not going to be out of service because you have the lights back here. So, we go along the side of it, the side-facing turn signal, two functions. It's an ID light when it's not flashing, and it's a turn signal when it is. Either one, if you have the turn signal doesn't work but the ID light does, it's a violation, and vice versa. You get to the back. ID lights, brake lights, tail lights all have to work. If you have one brake light out on the back of this unit that is not working, it's a violation. If you have neither one of them or no brake lights working, it's an out of service. This being the rearmost of the trailer, both turn signals have to work. ABS system on this trailer. I'm going to have the driver turn the key to the off position and turn it back on. I'm wanting to see if this light indicates or flashes or does its diagnostics testing. If it doesn't or if it stays on, that means that there's an issue with the brake system. If it does not mean it's out of service, it's just a violation because any ABS will revert back to being a standard brake system instead of an ABS system. But again, it's a fault that needs to be corrected. So again, go up this other side. As far as brake lights and things like that, all lights are good. If I go to the front of the vehicle, what we're going to do next is I'm going to check tires. As they said in the examples, minimum tread depth on a steer tire is 4/32 of an inch. Non-steer is 2/32 of an inch, and that's pretty thin. When it talks about 2/32, at any two adjacent major tread grooves measured at 3 different locations on the tire. What are they doing there? They're basically saying, okay, if you drag this trailer empty and it wheel hops, it's got to be that thin, less than 2/32 of an inch across 2 tread grooves at 3 locations on the tire. Otherwise, the tire's no good. So that's pretty lenient as far as the tire is concerned. Even the 4/32 of an inch on a steer tire is pretty lenient. We check the tires for the tread depths. We now are going to have a device that's going to check tire pressures. I'm going to look at the rims and put my hand on every single wheel lug, see if it turns. I'm going to look for cracks that go from like the lug hole into a handhold or into the center. Any crack is a violation, a crack that goes out into parent metal, but any crack that goes to another stud hole or to the center hole or to a handhold is going to be out of service. We go up to the front of the vehicle. We're going to now go underneath it. I'm going to check push rod travel on brakes. This is along with already having possibly passed the test for the dynamic brake tester. I still got to look underneath there and check to see what the brake linings look like. I got to check the push rods and potentially push rod travel. So again, it's not subtracting something or making part of the test simpler, it's just another add-on to the test. So we'll do that. What I'll do is have you release all the parking brakes because I have the wheels chalked. I'm going to mark with a piece of chalk on the push rod right up against the back of the brake chamber. Then I'm going to have you press and hold the brake. I'm going to measure the distance. So basically like a standard clamp type brake, a type 30 chamber, which is usually on all axles except for the steer axle, it's 1 3/4 inches. A long stroke brake is 2.5 inches. Or no, a type 30 is 2 inches is maximum. On a steer axle, type 20 brake, it's 1 3/4 inches. Sorry about that. So again, we're going to check all those push rod travels. We're also going to look at the brake drums, the brakes, structural issues with the trailer itself. Any damage to the frame, cross members dangling, anything like that. Good example, probably not so much on this trailer, but on a trailer where you have the ability to store a spare tire, a bungee strap holding the spare tire in is not enough. Got to be that chain. Believe me, I've seen twine, I've seen all kinds of stuff. So you got to have the proper securement for that spare tire. So you go through stuff like that. A good example, just so you know, you can come look at this later on. Cargo securement. This truck doesn't have cargo on it, which is fine. But when it does, I'm looking right here and I see there's one of these stake pockets that is broken and crushed right here. That's not a violation in and of itself, only because they're not using cargo securement in it. But if you put cargo securement in this stake pocket, it will have zero value. So when I get done here, if you want to come up and take a look at this, because you could go to these spools, or you could move it down farther, but if you're going to go right here, this pocket is broken. But again, it's not an issue as long as you're not using it. But it may be something that if this is your trailer of choice that you're using, and you see this and you think, I'm going to have to use that pocket, list it on that vehicle inspection report and get it fixed or take it out of service, one or the other. Reason why? Cargo securement used to be you could have a 20% failure and you'd be fine. Now there is a zero tolerance for any failure. So if you need 6 securement devices on this, and this is in number 6, you're out of service, only because that's a broken pocket. So things like that to remember. When the weather's a little better, I know your guys' equipment is very good. If you feel like you want an inspection, you can always pull around and come inside and ask us. We will try our best to accommodate you. Please check your truck and all your lights and things before you do, because if you find something that's wrong, my advice is sneak out the back. Okay? I mean, I say that because a trucking company that's not very far from right here wanted more truck inspections. I said, well, come on out. And they raced out there and brought a truck out. I took it in the barn, turned signal out on the trailer, put him out of service. So it's like, check your lights. You know, if you're going to have an inspection on this, fine. Check it, check it, check it. And then come on out and we'll be glad to give you a clean inspection is a win-win as far as I'm concerned. Gets my officers an inspection, gets you an inspection that drives that number down and you're not in that list. Okay? All right. Thank you very much for your time.